The following is a transcript of a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. 27th April 2021. Growth. Me. Numimai numimai kal nam hai, naan ur nya, ni de, naha nur nya, ni ne. I am. My children, oh my children, play in the name of life. From the light they are delivered, and to it they return, in the form of fruits. Me. Today in the pyramid, a maternal spirit showed up with this song, as it seemed to cradle humanity in the center of the main chamber. Why, of all the songs that vibrate, did this one affect me so much today? So that I remember its lyrics. I am. Because of what we talked about yesterday. The new children, those who will be born into the world after the reconnection. And it mentions something interesting. They are those who come from the light and who in it will bear fruit as a return. Me. It looks like the process of a plant. Photosynthesis, absorbing light, and then with it, fruits are produced. I am. That's right. In the same way that humans deliver their fruits to the world when they absorb the energy of light, of consciousness, of clarity. This is the key to growth. Growing comes from the Indo-European care, meaning to create or grow. That is, in the process of creation and manifestation, there is the expansion of a being. In English, you can find increase as a form that comes from the same root. However, here we talk about the verb grow, or the concept growth, from the Indo-European grey, which implies the growth of plants, development in agriculture, from which the word green or grass is born. The etymological concept reminds us how something expands by incorporating energy, by creating, developing into something else, expanding into other forms, from a seed to a tree, from a flower to a fruit, from a cell to a person, from a grain of sand to a mountain. And I want to emphasize something to you. Things do not grow because they unite with each other, but because they divide themselves. Me. How? This just broke my image a bit. That is, unity is strength. I am. Yes, because those who unite exert disparate forces and with different inertia. A single mass cannot exert any force, for it would have no opposition or polarity that would move it to exert its strength and demonstrate its power. Unity does not arise from the formation of a single being, but from the agglomeration of millions of them, unique and unrepeatable. A tree becomes strong because its cells have divided by millions, incorporating mineral and light energy. The greater the number of divisions multiplying their being, the greater strength, firmness, integrity. Me. Sure, it's logical. That is, if a cell had never divided, and each of them had not become a unique and special organism, we would not exist today. There would be no animal or plant. I am. They would all be prokaryotic cells, single-celled organisms with no nucleus, bacteria. Me. We would still be bacteria. I am. Due to reproduction and their complexity in the mechanisms of information exchange, unicellular organisms were grouped into multicellular organisms that allowed that, by collaborating in the consumption of energy, each of the cells could specialize in the development of a special activity, creating complex organisms made up of organs. The greater the number of specialized cells, the organs and systems were perfected, and the accumulation of them resulted in the expansion of the cell body, producing growth. Me. Growing up. It is, therefore, in a certain way, to increase the volume of something, the multiplication of the parts that composes it, due to the reproduction of them. What about what we call inner growth, personal growth? I am. It's the same, but with neuronal cells. Me. Wow. How unromantic the concept. I am. It may be rare for a spiritual being to base spiritual growth on the multiplication of cells and their interaction in the brain and in the tissue networks of a body, but I repeat something in case you do not remember. The body is an extension of the spirit. It is the manifestation of the intangible. It is not something separate. Nothing in the universe is separate, but every existence is a consequence of a previous one, with which your body registers the data of the spirit. It is the manifested soul. It is not separated from the spiritual plane. In this way, you can understand that neurons are the cells by which the spirit communicates in physical existence, by which it reasons. Inner growth is related to cognitive growth, to the intelligent ability of neurons to relate data by exchanging information, and it is the way in which the spirit grows. Me. The other day, I was listening to the video of a scientist who made a critique of quantum physics, and I had a question that I wanted to ask you, and it relates to this, I think. The topic was about the quantum problem that, because it does not fit into the logic of physics, wants to be somewhat discarded by physics. Even if the data, numbers, calculations, all prove that it is real, it poses a fundamental problem. The scientist explained that one of the ways to explain quantum physics is through the paradox of Schrödinger's cat, based on the idea of duality, wave-particle, the principle of indeterminacy, tunneling, entanglement, and randomness, which mathematically managed to explain in an exact way all the laws of physics. The dilemma arose of how something unstable and that determines its stability depending on observation, a subject's perspective, could really be the theory that explains everything we know as real and physical. All this has meant that, despite its practical usefulness today, it keeps physicists somewhat hesitant to accept that quantum is the fundamental theory of the mechanics of the universe, which leads to the question of whether quantum theory is just the beginning or the tip of the iceberg of a larger theory that gives logic to everything else. But because their calculations are so accurate, the only way to attack this theory is through epistemology, philosophical study of scientific foundations. And this is where the cat experiment comes in. The rationale says that to interpret the reality of a thing, it is necessary to measure the wave function. That is, how a wave moves through the factors time and space. However, this way of conducting an experiment is complicated, since they, in quantum, can only be measured by mathematics. Since we are talking about an intangible world, simply data, immeasurable. As in an experiment, the factors of time and space must be measurable, which is the vocabulary of physics. The problem arises at the moment when the immeasurable seeks to be measured. So, what is the relationship between the measurable and the wave? Well, it is random and therefore based on probability. The cat paradox consists of a thought experiment that describes a cat locked in a sealed box, where a radioactive device and a vial of poison are found. If the device detects radiation, it activates and breaks the poison jar, killing the cat. In quantum probability theory, the cat is alive and dead at the same instant, called superposition, and what will determine the result is only the observation of the person performing the experiment. That is, taking into account that there is the world of the measurable and the world of measurement, who measures and their tools to measure. The paradox implies that reality exists only by the relationship of the observer and the observed. And here he introduces one more theme, the paradox of Wigner's friend, which describes how a third subject appears in the room to know the result of the experiment. Suddenly, the cat and the scientist also became the experiment, with the cat in the box and the scientist in the room, and a third who, upon entering, when comparing the results, finds that his own with the scientist's are opposites. That is, the paradox can go on forever, since evolution determines us and only manifests itself in anointing of the observer. Well, all this to arrive at the following. The comment made regarding this epistemological conflict is that quantum mechanics must have a huge flaw, since it cannot be that things exist only if someone observes them, since in such a case, before there were eyes, there could have been nothing. And this leads to a phrase Einstein said, "I refuse to believe that the moon is not there when we don't look at it." So my question is, Is this so? That is, if we don't look at things, don't things exist? Because in such a case, it would be absurd, illogical. It would not make sense for the universe to exist just because I can see it. I am. Remember the song Saturn by the band Sleeping at Last? Me. Oh yes, I know what you mean. To the phrase of the song, I'd give anything to hear you say it one more time, that the universe was made just to be seen by my eyes. I am. In the scientific logic of quantum, in probability theory, something much bigger escapes. Scientists are usually like the horse, equipped with blinders, moving in a direction focused on only one, which, when the universe is everything. Refusing to see the 360 degrees because he considers that at least 180 degrees of the visual sphere is illogical and human culture. But the truth is that since the immemorial time of human history, the image of God, of divinity, has been that of an eye. Me. The all-seeing eye. I am. The eye is the key to understanding this. The eye was compared to the sun in the heavens, and the sun radiates light, generates light in its combustion, and light shines in trillions of rays emanating into cosmic space, many of which illuminate our world, and its particles, photons, nourish plants through photosynthesis, making something almost intangible. Something tangible, fruits, energy that cells consume, that make our bodies grow, developing organisms, so that that same light can be seen and sought in thousands of ways. Now, the observation of a human is not what determines creation. It is the observation of the whole which is contemplated, and in some sectors of this small planet, it has managed to evolve until it is observed with eyes and consciousness. The universe is a single mind in constant creation, seeking to observe itself. The error is not in quantum physics, but in the concept that, although we know that the same atoms that make up our bodies are those that make up the sun, humans still refuse to think that we are an extension of the universe, rather than its observer. Humans are like those neurons that weave networks, improving the understanding of the observable. It is the divine spirit, whatever you want to call it, observing itself through the eyes and senses of its creations. It is the light playing to be shadow. It is the atom playing to be a cell. It is the cell playing to be human. It is the human playing to be God. Einstein said, God doesn't play dice, and yet he forgot that God is a child who doesn't play dice, but plays everything. Me. Like today's song, my children play in the name of life. I am. To grow is to play. The universe is a game that discovers its rules in the process of creation. The rules of the universe are not established in the initial intention, but in probability. A child builds what he is through play. Laughter. Play is the key to spiritual growth. Playing, imagining, speeds neurons to have better synapses, to manage data in surpassing and transcendental ways. Play is the key to the propitious development of a being. Playing improves motor functions, physical reflexes. Playing develops emotional intelligence. Playing awakens the imagination that nourishes the brain through intelligence. Play is the key to cognitive development, to the awakening of potentials. The growth of a being, external and internal, uses play. Playing comes from yokas, joke, an act of making people laugh, related to the minstrels from the same root who were dedicated to informing in an artistic and funny way. In English, play comes from play, related to cultivating, tilling the land, plowing, learning how to do things. Play is how we understand growth in all its senses, physical, emotional, and cognitive. Play is the way neurons create an integral, complete, developed being with better capacities and agility of thought, action, and feeling. And just as a neuron performs this game in your brain, you perform this game on Earth, as other organic or inorganic beings perform this game in the galaxy, and so on throughout the universe. Me. So, in summary, the probabilistic paradox is nothing more than a lack of understanding that we are all an eternal consequence of a single being who has divided into trillions to expand his visions and thus create probabilities of his truth in order to grow and recognize himself, manifesting different options of himself in each observation, creating networks of thought that transcend and surpass your ideas of yourself, and the key to this is play. I am. Remember, what does the universe become when it is separated into two options? Me. Diverse. I am. So you know, the only way to grow in life is through fun. Diversion. Like children who play, manifest their ideas in the world. Become the creator of your own world. Me. I am the designer of matter. I am. Have fun, and you will be.